Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Naruto Rescued Hinata, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The 4 ninja leapt down to where the 4 Hyuga waited. If I didn't know what to look for, I never would seen your marks. Kurenai told them. We had to be as subtle as possible, said the Hyuga woman, if, as you and Hokage-sama believe, these people are truly the former ninja hidden in the forests, they could potentially notice any but the faintest of signs. Kiba asked, what signs? On the way here, I saw very faint sea in some of the trees. Kurenai explained, nothing too obvious, to avoid Nimari finding them and realizing what they were. I knew our new companions would attempt something like this, so I kept an eye out as we got out of the village. So that's what she was searching for, Naruto said in realization. Correct. Kurenai told him. How long have you been here? Are there more of you? Naruto asked. Less than a day, and we're all that could come. Almost all of the battle-ready Hyuga were out on missions at the time of Hinata-sama's loss. One of the men in the Hyuga said, the 4 of us were due back from a mission only hours after Hokage-sama said Kurenai-san left. But she wouldn't wait. I was concerned with learning Hinata's condition as soon as possible. She turned to the genin, her challenge to us provided the best opportunity to do that. I'd hoped to reclaim her then, but things didn't work out so well. Lucky thing you had the foresight to write instructions for that village doctor to give us, one of the men said. Kurenai nodded. While we're on the subject, the woman said, what is Hinata-sama's condition? Naruto listened as Kurenai filled in the 4 Hyuga. Naruto gathered they were from the branch family, as they each wore Hitai 8 on their heads, like Hyuga Neji, and each at one point referred to Hinata as Hinata-sama. Naruto noted they showed little surprise at Kurenai's theory that the Nimari wanted Hinata for the Byakugan. They even seemed to be ready for Kurenai's telling them that one of the possible reasons they thought the reason for this was the calling of a demon. That sea still lives, the woman said. In an environment like this, it's no surprise, said a man, with black hair that went down to the small of his back. You know about this? Kiba asked. A short-haired young man, who had identified himself as Yuishi, nodded. The story is often told to Hyuga in their youth. It is the earliest known example of outsiders using the Byakugan for their own gain. So it's told to instill in young Hyuga the need to protect their B. Shino said. Exactly, was the Yuishi's answer. The tale speaks of a group that worshipped what they called the Mori no Megami. Forest goddess. Kurenai asked. Their ultimate goal was to summon this being to our plane of existence. But 2 things prevented this. First was that they couldn't read the ley lines. Ley lines, Naruto asked. Paths of energy that surround the world. They run through the rocks and trees, through water and the soil. It is much like a chakra circulatory system for the whole world. There are points where this energy collects in great amounts. They are often found instinctively by humans and made into holy places. The summoning of the Mori no Megami requires knowledge of where a particular alignment of these ley lines within the forests can are located. In fact, said the woman, the reason the summoning that destroyed Morigakure failed was because a portion of the alignment was missed. That resulted in the massive disaster that caved in the tunnels the Morinin used to enter and leave this village. What's the second obstacle in the summoning? Kiba asked. The Mori no Megami had no earthly body, like some demons. This is part of why the ley lines were needed. Members of the sea channeled their chakra, some say even going so far as to open the gates, at key points in order to focus the soul of the summoned D into a vessel. A vessel, you mean? Naruto asked. Correct. Placement of the vessel was absolutely vital. As such, simple knowledge alone wasn't sufficient. The vessel herself had to be able to actually see the ley lines in order to position herself properly. The Byakugan allows this. That is the reason they need it. What you're saying, then, Shino began, is that the Mori no Megami will be brought to this earth and will take the body and soul of Hinata-sama. No. Everyone turned in surprise to Naruto, who was just as stunned as everyone else at his sudden outburst. Naruto couldn't help himself. From the moment they'd spoken of the P, his thoughts immediately went to himself and the Kyuubi. From there, they went to another person in a situation much closer to the one they described. Gaara of the desert held AR. But this monster wasn't sealed away, like the fox. It was part of him, its power meant to be used. Just like this forest goddess power was intended. And that intent had eventually left Gaara to believe that his goal was to kill anything that lived besides himself. The thought of that happening to Hinata was too much. What? Naruto began asking, what'll happen to Hinata? Kiba and Shino looked to the adults as the man who had been speaking answered. If what the stories say are true, then Hinata-sama's body will be completely taken by this monster. Hinata-sama herself, however, won't fare so well. It is a fate worse than death, for without her soul, Hinata-sama will simply cease to exist. Elsewhere, Kashyuinga trained herself. She had to be in perfect condition. For in only 2 days would the ceremonies take place. On that day, Kashyuinga would receive the Nimari people's greatest honor. Her only goal until then, was to strengthen her body and soul so that it would be worthy. She would become the goddess made flesh. And nothing would get in her way. If what the stories say are true, then Hinata-sama's body will be completely taken by this monster. Hinata-sama herself, however, won't fare so well, for without her soul, Hinata-sama will simply cease to exist. With those words by Hyuga Yuishi, a silence fell among the 8 shinobi. Nobody knew how to respond to such a statement. After several minutes of quiet, Naruto got to his feet and began to walk away. Naruto, said Kiba. Gotta take a leak, Naruto explained as he disappeared behind some trees. When several minutes passed, Kurenai began to worry. She got up and went in the direction Naruto had left in. She hoped the boy hadn't gotten himself caught or while he was gone. She was relieved to see Naruto standing next to a tree. Her relief began to fade, though, as she noticed Naruto was standing still as a statue. She sensed no danger, but felt anger. Anger from Naruto. Naruto, Kurenai said quietly. Go away. Naruto demanded. What's wrong? Kurenai asked. I said go. Naruto, Kurenai wondered what had angered Naruto so greatly. This wasn't the usual loud-mouthed pissed off she was used to with Kiba and knew Naruto capable of. He was genuinely upset over something. She was about to ask again when Naruto spoke up. You wanna know what's wrong? He said darkly, I just figured out why I'm here. Why you really brought me along. What do you mean? Kurenai asked, confused. I brought you here for exactly the reason I said I did. You have a connection to Hinata. Really? Naruto asked, a mocking tone in his voice. His voice became serious just as quickly. Compared to you, Kiba, and Shino, I hardly know Hinata at all. Even those 4 Hyuga probably know her better than I do. That can't be the reason. But Naruto, you brought me here because of that D. You brought me here in case we failed. Kurenai was a little startled at the accusation. But now she understood what Naruto was thinking. You believe we brought you here in order to use the Kyuubi against the Mori no Megami. Well, what else is there? Again, it's just as I told you when I recruited you. That's bull. I told you. I don't know Hinata. You may not know her, but she knows you. Naruto stared at Kurenai, unable to fathom what she meant by that. How can she know me, if I don't? You really never noticed? Kurenai asked. When Naruto's expression only became more confused, Kurenai let out a sigh. Naruto, how does Hinata usually act when she's around you? Well, she usually gets all red in the face. And, until recently, she couldn't even look me in the eye or talk to me. That's when it hit Naruto. Until recently, until the Chunin exam. I don't quit, and I won't run. I won't take back my words. That is my Nindo. Hinata had spoken those words, Naruto's words. Come to think of it, Sakura had said shortly after the fight, I think she's always been watching you. Naruto remembered the moments prior to his fight with Hyuga Neji. To other people it may not seem like I changed, but I felt like I was able to change, and it was thanks to you, Naruto-kun. Judging by the wide-eyed expression of realization appearing on Naruto's face, Kurenai decided that Naruto was figuring out what Kurenai was telling him. Naruto, Hinata has looked to you as an example to follow for years. You've inspired her in a way I don't think anybody else has been able to do. Including myself, she smiled, and I was actually trying. The fact is we need people who are as close to Hinata as possible if we're to have any hope of breaking her free of the Nimari's hold. The more Hinata knows that person, the better. With that in mind, you, Naruto, are our best chance at rescuing her. That's why you're here. The fox has nothing to do with it. Naruto listened to Kurenai's words, not quite believing them, but at the same time knowing they were the truth. Hinata looks up to me. Kurenai nodded. Naruto was shocked to say the least. He hadn't made much of it when Hinata had told him he helped her change. He just figured she meant his cheering for her and nothing else. But if she had watched him long before then she was the first, before Sasuke, before Sakura-chan and Kakashi-sensei, even before Iruka-sensei, Hinata was the first person to acknowledge me, to see me as something more than just some idiot screw-up, or some kind of monster. Kurenai watched a look of determination grow on Naruto's face. His hands began to clench into fists. Without warning, his fist slammed into a nearby tree with all the might Naruto could muster. He looked Kurenai right in the eyes. Kurenai-sensei, he said, I promise, I'll do everything in my power to bring Hinata back. Kurenai smiled in approval. Good. Then we'd best head back. We don't know how much time we have before this ritual takes place. We need to figure out a plan of action as soon as possible. Naruto nodded. Hinata, if you've really believed in me like Kurenai said, then I promise, I won't let you down. I'll get you back no matter what it takes. I'll be worthy of that respect. Cell 8 listened intently as Hyuga Tomoko, the one woman among the four Hyuga, told them of the ritual to summon the Mori no Megami. Kurenai wanted everybody clear on matters before a plan could be made. As you've been told, the current situation is the second known attempt to raise the Mori no Megami. The first occurred well over a century ago, by members of AT of ninja who worshipped the forest goddess and wanted to take control of Morigakure. But they made critical mistakes in the summoning. The ritual to summon the Mori no Megami is an extremely intricate process. It requires the use of the chakra ley lines found throughout this forest. According to the R clan's research into this ceremony, members of the tribe go to specific points along the ley lines and focus as much chakra as possible into them. To do that, they open the third of the body gates, the forest gate. The focused chakra is forced into the ley lines and, from there, flows in a predetermined direction, not unlike water in a pipe, towards a specific area. The Nimari in that area will focus the enormous, flowing chakra to create a focal point. This is the place that the Mori no Megami will take over its vessel, where it intends to consume the very essence of Hinata-sama. That is the most difficult part of the ceremony. Such a large amount of chakra forced into one point is highly unstable. The beacon it provides moves repeatedly. No great distance, just the barest of millimeters in various directions. This means the exact placing the vessel exactly is an extremely difficult task. To achieve it, a vessel has to be able to see the ley lines and the chakra flowing through them with their own eyes and move accordingly. The only known way this is possible was through the power of the Byakugan, the Kekkei Genkai of the Hyuga clan. And this time, they aren't likely to repeat the same mistakes made in the previous attempt, she said as she finished. You're right, Kurenai replied, chances are, they've been working for over 100 years for this moment. They've had plenty of time to learn the ley lines and likely know where to channel their chakra and how much they need to use. Also, they have a very willing and able vessel in Hinata. Willing? Kiba sneered, they've got her hypnotized. True, Kurenai said, which makes things especially difficult. Were it simply a matter of their forcing Hinata to do this, we could rescue her and prevent the rituals that way. But as it is, then we gotta make her wake up somehow. Kiba said. Easier said than done. Kurenai told her student, do you remember what I taught you about the basic tenets of hypnosis? Kiba stammered. He should remember, Kurenai's specialty was genjutsu, so her lectures on it were often the most thorough. Any genjutsu which utilizes hypnosis to affect another's behavior, Shinobugan, is completely ineffective against an individual who has absolutely no desire to perform whatever actions or behavior the hypnosis is trying to force upon them. Yeah, that, Kiba said. So, wait, you can't hypnotize someone unless they want to be hypnotized? Naruto asked. That sounded rather pointless. Not exactly. Kurenai told him, hypnosis can make anybody do almost anything. But only if that person, even subconsciously, has the inclination to do so. Naruto looked like he still didn't get it. To use an example, let's say I wanted to hypnotize Kiba here into believing he was a cat. Hey, Kiba said, looking insulted. Akamaru let out a bark as well. Consider this punishment for forgetting my lessons, Kurenai said with a smirk. Despite the seriousness of the current mission, the four Hyuga managed to chuckle as well. Kurenai turned to Naruto. Now, from what you just saw, you might think I couldn't possibly hypnotize Kiba like I just described. Right. Naruto nodded. Made sense enough so far. However, if Kiba has ever, even once, wondered about cats, then it's possible for an attempted hypnosis to work. That's because the inclination is there, even if Kiba himself isn't fully aware of it. So, Naruto said hesitantly, you can only make someone do something they want to already, even if they don't know they wanna do it. Yes. Also, the stronger the desire, the harder it is to break the hypnosis by force. That is where our problem lies in regards to Hinata. Hinata's goal, for some time now, has been to change how she sees herself and grow stronger. Shino answered. Exactly. Hinata's essentially been given her dream come true in the creation of Kashyuingar. This is, more or less, what she's strived for, and it's just been handed to her on a silver platter. These people acknowledge her. Right now practically worship her. Soon, in fact, they really will worship her. You're right, said Raizen, the oldest among the four Hyuga. We cannot, as a result, count on breaking the thrall she is under until after we have rescued her. Which means this will be more of AK than a rescue, replied Kiba. AK of someone who will certainly be heavily guarded, is skilled in combat, will almost certainly not go down without a fight, and whose exact whereabouts we do not know. Raizen said. Wonderful, Kiba lamented. Our best chance, then, Kurenai began, would be to grab Hinata during the ceremony to summon the Mori no Megami. What? Naruto exclaimed, isn't that see it just a little too close? I said it's our best chance. Kurenai replied, it's not our only one. Kiba, does Akamaru remember where in the Nimari village he was kept? If he was close to Hinata then that might be where we can find her. Kiba listened as the pup barked a response to Kurenai's query, nodding occasionally as he did so. Akamaru says he doesn't remember the place well enough that he could take us there by memory. But he does know the general area and can find Hinata's scent from there if she's close enough. That will have to do. Kurenai said. She considered what everyone had said and began to plan. Raizen-san. Kurenai said. The man nodded to acknowledge. Would there any significant difference between the point this ritual will take place and any other gathering of these ley lines? It will likely be the largest gathering of the lines. The area will be reasonably large. Also, if these Nimari are as reverent towards it as you've suggested, it would be someplace special to them. Meaning its location will be marked to distinguish it from any other such locations. Good. Kurenai said, that means it will be possible to find it. Kiba, you, Naruto, and I will go into the village as soon as things there appear settled. Akamaru will help us to find Hinata and we'll try and get her back from there. If that isn't possible though, we'll need to be prepared to attack the ritual. To that end, Raizen-san, I want you to take Shino with you and begin searching for this point. Your Byakugan can search the ley lines and Shino's insects will likely be able to give him possible locations for the focal point's location. Together, you should be able to find it. Shino and the Hyuga nodded acknowledgement of the Jonin's orders. Kurenai turned to the other three Hyuga present. You three, I need you to also search the ley lines. Your objective will be to locate the points from which Nimari will be pouring their chakra into the ley system. Kurenai-san, Yuishi said, raising his hand, wouldn't we be put to better use helping Raizen-san and Shino-kun locate ritual's location? No. In the event that my group cannot save Hinata, and that we either cannot locate the place of the ceremony or fail even if we do, I will need you to know these points, and kill the Nimari who will be pouring their chakra into the lines. What? Replied the fourth Hyuga, a kid barely older Kurenai's students who had remained silent up to this point, but the last ceremony failed because, his mouth suddenly formed an O as realization sunk in. Kurenai confirmed the boy's thoughts. The Mori no Megami is a serious threat. In the event that we cannot stop its summoning at the focal point, it cannot be allowed onto this plane. If all else fails, we will create another disaster like the one that destroyed Morigako long ago. This place will be buried again, the Mori no Megami will be stopped. What Kurenai didn't say, what she didn't have to, was that if this course of action was followed, all 8 of the shinobi there would surely perish. As would Hinata. The process of sharing information and planning had provided ample time for the 8 shinobi of the Hidden Leaves to rest. As a result, they enacted their plan immediately. 3 of the Hyuga branch family that had joined them went off. Yuishi, Tomoko, and the youngest among them, Kodomaru, would explore the outskirts of the Nimari village, examining the ley line patterns in the hopes of discovering the critical points that would be most needed in the coming ceremony. Should all else fail, they would also be in charge of dispatching the Nimari located in these specific points, causing the ceremony to backfire and recreating the very disaster that occurred the last time this ritual was attempted. Since he had been in the Nimari village once already, Shino would join Hyuga Raizen in infiltrating it. It was Kurenai's speculation that the most important location for the ritual, the focal point of all the chakra that would be forced into the ley lines, would be located within the village itself. Raizen and Shino would examine the village as a whole, looking for especially revered or unusually marked places. Shino had mentioned a possible place for a starting point, so they would head there first. Kurenai, Naruto, Kiba, and Akamaru would also infiltrate the Nimari village. However, they had a far different target. Rather than places, they were after a person. The girl they had come here for, Hyuga Hinata. According to Kiba's translation of Akamaru's report, Akamaru had actually been kept in Hinata's sleeping quarters. This offered their best chance to finish everything quickly. Working from a combination of memory and tracking scent, Akamaru was gradually leading them to the tree-bound hut that Hinata was currently residing in. Theirs was easily the most difficult, most dangerous, and most potentially rewarding part of the plan. Where Shino and the Hyuga had only to infiltrate and not be seen while exploring themselves, Kurenai, Kiba, and Naruto would surely end up making their presence known. If they located Hinata, there would be no way around it. Even on the off chance that they wouldn't have to fight bodyguards protecting the girl, actually securing Hinata would cause a major problem. She would definitely fight them given the chance, and she was far more dangerous as Cash Hyuga than she was as Hyuga Hinata. Kurenai made a point of making this clear to the 2 genin under her command. If Hinata has ever had a real weakness, Kurenai told them, it's that she lacks the confidence essential to being able to fight with all her strength. From what I've observed, that will not be an issue so long as she is Cash Hyuga. The 2 genin, and even the dog, gave a nod in response. As she of the ghostly eyes, Hinata was confident to the point of being full of herself. Combine that with the facts that she inexplicably retained the battle skills she learned both as a genin of Konoha and as heir to the Hyuga family, and that she currently saw the 3 ninja and dog as her enemies, she would be a very dangerous person to deal with. The Nimari village was built within the trees of the forest themselves. The huts were built around the trees. On the inside, as the ninja learned by looking through windows as they moved, they were circular one-room structures with the tree they were built into serving as a central pillar. The huts were connected by a series of bridges and ladders. However, many Nimari, particularly the younger fighters, would move by channeling chakra to their feet and hands in order to stick to the trees and to enable them to jump from tree to tree. The bridges and ladders were used primarily by those too old or too young to have such control. The shinobi traveled by clinging to the trees with chakra as well. Using the arts of transformation and camouflage, the 4 maintained near invisibility and had yet to be spotted. Part of the reason for that, Kurenai thought, was that the Nimari seemed to have most basic skills down, but the finer points of ninjutsu seemed lost to them. This caused them to fail to notice the various jutsu being used by the Konoha nin, giving the infiltrators a much easier time moving. They also kept low to the ground for the most part, as most of the Nimari preferred going as high as they could. With a yelp from Akamaru, the 4 shinobi stopped. They climbed up higher and hid in the shadows underneath a hut placed high in a tree. Kiba informed Kurenai and Naruto that the Hinata's hut was close by. We should be able to see it from here. Indeed, Akamaru and Kiba found the hut in question. They had a clear view through a window, giving them a glimpse of the room inside. Hinata sat cross-legged on the floor, obviously deep in meditation. The 2 boys nodded. I have the feeling it's important, Kurenai said. Yeah, Kiba agreed, we haven't seen that many people with it. And every one of them was older than Hinata. Maybe it's a sign of adulthood, like the hit I ate. Naruto ventured. My first thought as well. Kurenai replied, but I don't think so. First of all, too few have it. Maybe it's a sign of super elite fighters, like Jonin. Naruto queried. If that were the case, why is it that none of those with the sign were among those we've fought so far? They would be the obvious choice when it came to collecting and protecting their precious vessel. Plus, some of those we've seen with it were average people, not counted among the fighters we've seen so far. In fact, I don't think any of them I see. The two genin looked at the sensei confused. That mark is a sign that they aren't from this village. Kiba's eyes widened as realization hit him. I get it, Kiba said, it's some kind of seal or tattoo, and only people brought in from outside the village have it. The ones they've Naruto said, beginning to understand himself. Exactly, Kurenai said, which means it could very well be the key to the genjutsu placed on Hinata. If nothing else came of this venture, they now had some very useful knowledge. Those who had been recaptured from the Nimari had needed extensive therapy and the support of close family and friends to break the hold of the genjutsu. If the seal had been present then, its significance was likely missed. Perhaps assumed to be a sign of Nimari adulthood, as Kurenai initially believed. Knowing it to be a cursed seal meant that there might be another way, a way to free not only Hinata, but all the imported Nimari. But for now, Hinata was their priority. Well, what are we waiting for? Naruto asked impatiently. Look, Kurenai said, indicating the door of the hut. Outside of the huts was a small circular platform for people to stand on. Outside the door to this hut, on just such a platform, stood two Nimari. They were older, and were clearly strong. They were just as clearly guarding Hinata's home from invasion. Our chance will come when Hinata ends her meditation. Chances are, she will begin to see to other matters, in the process moving around the room and moving objects within it. That will create a small bit of noise that can cover our own entry and, if we do it correctly, we can incapacitate Hinata and possibly even escape with her before anybody notices something is wrong. Though I wouldn't count on it, personally. Kurenai thought to herself. Slowly, but surely, they shinobi made their way to the hut Hinata was in. Kurenai knew they need to be very careful. If Hinata caught wind of something wrong, she would activate her Byakugan and there would be no more use in hiding. Their caution proved useless, however, when a man leaped at them from out of nowhere. He attacked Kurenai who, unable to dodge, was sent plummeting into a platform by a well-placed kick to the head. Sensei! Kiba yelled as he and Naruto landed from their jumps. The two didn't have time to worry about her though. As they looked around, they saw a small force of Nimari fighters around them. Kashyuinga had just finished meditation when she was startled by a loud crash outside. Running to her window, she saw three of the foreign ninja on the verge of attack by other Nimari. The woman who led them was facing off with Da Iriga, while two of the boys, the blonde and the dog master, were surrounded by various youths. Most of those fighting the boys were too young and inexperienced. Instinct, she refused to call it memory, told her that the two could overwhelm them if a fight dragged on. Da Iriga was safe, he was well trained and among the most powerful of the Nimari, but the younger fighters would need assistance for certain. Still, she had, in the days since her arrival, learned something of her father's style of battle. She would concentrate on the two boys, but she would still lend some assistance to his fight as well. That done, she leapt from her window to the other battle. Kurenai picked herself up off the hut platform she'd landed on. She'd been caught completely by surprise by that attack. Whoever had done it knew what they were doing. The man, who seemed a good deal older than Kurenai herself, but still as spry as a young buck, had brown eyes and shoulder-length black hair. He wore animal skin trousers that went down to his knees and, rather than the young fighter's vests, a sleeveless jacket that went down to his thighs. He had not put on any body paint, revealing tanned skin indicative of plenty of time outdoors. He was just about to make the leap Kurenai was expecting when she suddenly sensed a bundle of chakra. Looking up, she saw a ball of air fly past the combatants' heads and into the tree canopy above them. It gave a small explosion, sending leaves flying off of their branches and falling down between Kurenai and her foe. Kurenai recognized the technique. Kazetama no Jutsu, the wind ball. Usually kept smaller than what she had just seen, it was handy as a distraction technique, to focus an enemy's attention elsewhere. With that thought, Kurenai suddenly glanced back at her enemy. He had an odd smile on his face as he suddenly began using his hands for signs. Kurenai didn't recognize the sequence of signs, so she braced herself for whatever unknown technique was coming her way. Had she not refocused on the man in front of her, she'd have missed the momentary glow that began to emit from the leaves falling before her. She acted just fractions of a second before the leaves began to inexplicably fly right at her. The technique, known in olden times as the Konoha no Shuriken no Jutsu, was one of Da Iria's best techniques. It required very precise control of the life's flame, but it also required very minimal amounts of it. This meant it could be used continuously without exhausting the user, even if that user had a very weak flame within them. It took the power of the flame and focused it into falling leaves. It would send those leaves flying at the foe with enough speed too. Its old name came from how the leaves would fly similar to the old weapons known as shuriken. As such things were rare among the Nimari, the Konoha no Shuriken became a popular technique among some. It wasn't useful as a killing technique, as the weapons could only create. Da Iriaga watched as his new weapons flew at his foe. The shinobi woman seemed surprised. He was impressed, though, that her surprise didn't prevent her from acting. As the shuriken struck their mark, a puff of smoke appeared. When it cleared, he saw the woman had vanished and many of the leaves used in the attack were stuck in a long board. Looking to the side, he saw a board quickly pried loose from the platform the woman was standing on. Instinct suddenly told him to move. He jumped back, just as the woman came down from above him, missing the jump kick she had intended to send to his head. She rushed him, flattening her right hand for a chop to the neck. Kurenai managed to evade those flying leaves with the Kawarimi no Jutsu. She quickly made her way into the trees. She used the Bunshin no Jutsu, and sent an illusionary body down to engage the man. Unaware that the woman before him wasn't real, he attempted to block the attack. As he focused on that attack, he reacted quickly, getting out of the way of another potential assault by leaping to the platform Kurenai had started out on. Rather than come down and show herself while he was being careful, she used her chakra to plant her feet on the nearest tree, hidden within the branches and foliage. Kurenai understood this would be no easy fight to win. Her enemy was clearly both experienced and skilled. She could only imagine the control required for that leaf technique he used. She wondered idly where the Kazetama had come from, but for now it could wait. She looked quickly to see Kiba and Naruto, handling themselves well against a group of Nimari. They were fighting an estimated half dozen. But they managed to hold the advantage despite numbers. These fighters, 4 boys and 2 girls, seemed to be just below the level of fighters Kurenai had seen with Hinata earlier. And well below her current enemy. Speaking of, the man had managed to move out of sight and hide himself. Kurenai briefly cursed herself for letting her attention wander, but it was unavoidable so long as she was concerned for her charges. Now that she knew their situation, and that they were capable of handling it, she could concentrate fully on her fight. The 2 combatants remained hidden. Kurenai remained still, though she could tell her opponent was moving around the branches, seeking her out. He was far more accustomed to battling in this environment than Kurenai. To move recklessly would be S. The choice was soon taken out of her hands, as the man appeared beside her. Kurenai immediately jumped away from the tree she was on, towards another one she could attach to in preparation for a counter-attack. Knowing it was too easy a hit, she wasn't at all shocked to see the puff of smoke that accompanied her mortal blow, indicating she'd just dispatched a Bunshin. She was, however, surprised to see what came out of the smoke. Leaves. Her enemy had used Bunshin made out of leaves. Kurenai knew exactly what was about to occur. She also knew she had no way to dodge them in midair and nothing close by to use with Kawarimi. The attack sent Kurenai falling through the roof of a hut with great force. Juujan Bunshin no Jutsu. Kiba cried. With a cloud of smoke, Akamaru transformed into a double of his master. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto cried. With clouds of smoke, 3 more Naruto appeared to join in the fray. The numbers now even, the shinobi duo had little trouble dealing with the enemies before them. Though both knew they had to finish this quickened move, or else they would be overwhelmed by greater numbers of, more than likely, stronger warriors. As they managed to knock down the last of their antagonists, a cry broke through the noise of battle. From above them, a figure dropped from the trees and landed gracefully on a bridge connecting 2 of the tress. The 2 Konoha genin and dog, each firmly planted on the sides of closely placed trees, stared as Hyuga Hinata gave those by her commands in the Nimari tongue. Whatever it was she'd ordered of them, they were now moving away from Naruto, Kiba, and Akamaru. What's going on? Naruto asked. Are they giving up? Looks that way, Kiba said as he watched the scene before them. Does that mean we win? They're letting us have Hinata. No. In fact, you've got it backwards. They aren't letting us have her, they're letting her have us. Akamaru woofed in agreement. What? Naruto asked. Kiba was right though. Naruto saw Hinata look at the two, a wicked smile on her face. She really intended to fight the three of them single-handedly. As he looked at the girl, Naruto thought of the previous night. Kurenai's words sticking in his mind. Hinata has looked to you as an example to follow for years. You've inspired her in a way I don't think anybody else has been able to do. You, Naruto, are our best chance at rescuing her. That's why you're here. Ignoring Kiba's surprised shout, Naruto leapt off his post and jumped to the bridge. If Hinata has ever had a real weakness, it's that she lacks the confidence essential to being able to fight with all her strength. From what I've observed, that will not be an issue so long as she is cashewing Ga. His sensei's words rang in his mind as he watched Naruto jump down to engage Hinata. Kiba knew the truth to Kurenai's words. He wasn't sure if Naruto would be able to win if he tried to fight. He had defeated Hyuga Neji, sure. But he was fighting with everything he had, then. Here, he'd almost surely be holding back against an enemy who was out to kill him. Kiba looked to Akamaru. As was often the case, they had the same thoughts in their mind. Should they remain where they were, or should they aid Naruto? Reluctantly, Kiba gave Akamaru a hand sign telling him to stay where he was. They didn't know just what Hinata had told her comrades, who now sat a safe distance, eagerly anticipating the show. Rather than risk getting cornered, Kiba wanted to be able to jump into action in the event they decided to get involved. He also wanted to be ready in case Naruto needed to be pulled out. Not entirely out of the question, given the circumstances. So, resisting the temptation to go in, Kiba sat and waited. Chakra in his hands and feet holding him to the tree trunk he crouched sideways on. Naruto jumped down onto the bridge where Hinata waited. He landed with none of Hinata's grace, causing the bridge to sway and shake. Though neither ninja had any difficulty maintaining their balance, Naruto couldn't help but spare a glance below. The trees in the Nimari Valley were unusually large. They had to be, to support the huts and bridge and ladder system the Nimari used for their shelters. They were currently an easy 15 feet above ground level on a bridge connecting two huts. There were no ropes or rails on the bridge to hang on to. Staying on was strictly a matter of balance. Along with this, trees surrounded them in every direction, easy leaping distance for either person. Both combatants to be knew this could likely become an aerial battle if it dragged on. Naruto considered his options. Naruto himself was well armed, he always carried plenty of shuriken and had some kunai as well. But he was at a serious disadvantage because he couldn't use his weapons for serious attacks. This would likely become a fist fight. Hinata was unarmed, coming out in too much of a rush to grab even one of the spears the Nimari favored. However, she still had the Byakugan, as well as the knowledge of her clan's fighting style and techniques. A style that, Naruto knew firsthand, highly favored close combat. And I'm not about to use the fox against Hinata, Naruto thought to himself. He began to sweat a bit. This was not going to be easy. Hinata's forehead veins bulged with her Byakugan's activation. With a smirk, she launched the first attack. She ran full speed at Naruto. Naruto immediately brought up his hands to defend. Moments before coming within reach of Naruto, Hinata did a small hop and slammed her feet against an edge of the bridge. As soon as he saw her, he gave up staying on the bridge and leapt with everything he had to the first tree he saw. Unfortunately, this was precisely what Hinata was counting on. Less than a second after Naruto jumped, so did Hinata. Naruto was barely airborne when Hinata appeared before him. Hinata wasn't finished yet though. She brought her hands together and began weaving signs. Ni Makibishi no Jutsu, she cried out. Directly below Naruto, in the area Hinata expected him to land, odd points began digging themselves from the earth. The Ni Makibishi no Jutsu was calling upon the great tree's roots and making them caltrops that would almost certainly impale any part of Naruto that hit them. Or they would have, had Kiba, unable to stay on the sidelines any longer, had not jumped down and caught Naruto. Kiba landed just outside the radius of the tree root caltrops, Naruto in his arms. The blonde boy got to his feet as quickly as he could. Thanks, Naruto said. Anytime. Kiba replied, what were you thinking? Taking her head on. You, of all people, should know better than that. Did you completely forget your fight with Neji? Fight with Neji, Naruto said quietly. A smirk began to grow on his face. The root caltrops receded back into the forest soil as Hinata leapt down to her opponent's level. She watched them, poised for combat, waiting for a move to be made. Kiba, you just gave me a great idea. Naruto told his companion, stay back for a little longer. If this works, Hinata'll leave herself wide open. You may have a shot to knock her out or something. This idea must be something, then. She seems pretty focused. Yeah, Naruto agreed. Well, here goes. Naruto brought his fingers together in a plus pattern. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Several Narutos appeared behind the real deal. They charged Hinata en masse. With a chuckle, Hinata charged into battle. Her Byakugan made it easy for her to see each and every one of her opponents. She kept them at bay easily enough. Kiba watched as the fight stayed fairly even for a while. Soon, though, Hinata stopped, turned towards one of the Narutos she fought, and charged at it. Fool, Hinata said, as the other Bunshin began to puff out of existence, you really think I wouldn't notice one keeping away from the fighting? She then got a very alarmed look on her face. It was in that moment that Kiba understood Naruto's plan. I gotta admit, it's a good one, though he'll never hear me say it. Move. Not bad, Hinata. You got a pretty good memory there. He told her. No, it couldn't be a memory. It was instinct. Instinct. Her battle readiness faltered for a moment. You saw me use that exact same trick once. The boy told her, against your cousin, Neji. That's how you knew to dodge, wasn't it? No, she cried. Her anger overwhelmed her for an instant. I saw no such thing. She yelled out, I am Kashyuin-ga. Of the blessed line of the Nimari. In a day's time I will become the goddess made flesh. My people will be a great power once more. The kunai in her hands was unsteady with her shaking hands. They already are. Naruto told her, his breath coming hard with her kneeling on his chest, you are Hyuga Hinata. Of the Hyuga clan of Konohagakure. The kunai in Kashyuin-ga's hand stopped shaking. She brought it up over her head. I am not. Before she could bring the blade down she was suddenly blindsided by an attack from Kiba. She flew off of Naruto's chest and into a tree. See it a little close, aren't ya, BS? Naruto asked in irritation. HMPH. Her Byakugan would have caught me if I didn't do it just right. I needed her attention focused on one thing and one thing only. Oh, thanks for doing that. He held out a hand and helped Naruto to his feet. However, they had only moments to catch their breath. Before they could move to claim Hinata and get the hell out of there, Akamaru, still in the trees in Kiba's form, jumped down to the ground and began barking wildly. Looking up, the two genin understood why. Their fight with Hinata had attracted a lot of attention. Several Nimari, both warrior and civilian, stood looking down at them from the various platforms and huts. And none of them were very happy at seeing their champion lose. Not good, Kiba muttered. She didn't have time to think much about them, however. Her enemy would be coming after her soon. She needed to get into the open before he potentially trapped her here. She ran out of the hut's door, activating the Bunshin no Jutsu as she did so. The moment her body passed the door's threshold, she suddenly split into 5 kurenais, only one of which was real. The 5 kunoichi made a leap off of the balcony in different directions. Passing through and dispelling 4 as the 5th, the real kurenai, dodged them. She braced herself, fully anticipating another strike from the man. She was not disappointed. The man came at her, waiting from above the home she'd emerged from. He leapt from the tree he had attached to, a spear at the ready for his foe. This time, kurenai would not be caught off guard. She landed on a wooden platform and leapt again, throwing a single shuriken as she did so. The enemy, still in midair himself, just barely moved his body enough to dodge. The fact that he'd gone out of his way to dodge rather than take the blade convinced kurenai she was looking at the man himself, not another of those leaf Bunshin. That confirmation made, she signed to herself. Fortunately, he fell from the bridge and down the ground below. Whether or not he was Kurenai did not know, nor did she have any need or desire to find out. He was out of commission and out of her way, that was all she wanted. With him dealt with, she could get back to her students, who were hopefully all right. Kashyuinga regained consciousness and picked herself up from the dirt. She staggered to her feet and saw that the two fire shinobi had become distracted by other Nimari who had been watching their battle. Doubtless they were none too pleased to see Kashigyu fall as she did. She wasn't too happy about it herself. She knew her brethren would swoop down to her aid before long. However, Kashigyu did not wish that. She would avenge herself. Hey, she called out. The two boys turned around to look, only to be bombarded the moment they faced Kashigyu. Right into the strongest part of the life's flame. It would stun them for several moments, while their flame was briefly weakened. She leaned herself forward, using her outstretched palms to perform a handstand. She bent her legs and kicked outward, hitting each shinobi in the jaw. The two were sent flying in separate directions. Kashyuinga quickly judged as she descended from her handstand which of the two to pursue before they regained their senses. The blonde, with his double ability, was the more dangerous of the two. The moment her feet made contact with the ground, Kashyu ran to the blonde, prepared for the finishing blow. Before she could reach him, however, she caught sight via her eyes of another attacker coming at her from the right side and above. At first she thought it was the other boy, but she immediately recognized the transformed chakra of his dog. As she watched the canine, her eyes alerted her to movement behind her. She saw the blonde getting up, recovering from his blow first. She wondered just how he could recover so quickly. Though it didn't matter. He was still fairly weakened, she could tell he wouldn't be able to evade very well. Before she could reach him, however, something tried to attack her yet again. This time she backflipped out of the way. When she was on her feet again, she saw a man standing before her. He wasn't one of the shinobi who had initially entered the forest. He was someone new. He had long black hair in a style vaguely familiar to Kashyu's mind. However, that didn't interest her. What did, with a bulging veined face and white eyes staring back at her. She scowled at the man, another of the blessed line. Kashyu's eyes showed another, the shinobi boy who controlled insects, rousing the beaten fighters and helping them to escape. The blonde complained loudly as he was practically dragged by the other two. Hinata, he cried out. She did her best to ignore the unwanted name. She focused on the man before her. Hinata-sama, I have no desire to fight you. Then, this will be easy for me, Kashyu quipped back. They had run away. She cursed herself for letting it happen. She was about to order any able-bodied fighters to join her in the chase when someone suddenly began calling her name. Kashyuinga. Kashyuinga. A boy came. He was no warrior, far too young. There was an urgency in his shouting the girl couldn't ignore. It is Da Iriga. He has been badly Just as this announcement was being heard by the assembled people, Kashyu saw something above her. Looking up, she saw the shinobi woman Yuhi Kurenai, leaping through the trees. Coming from the very direction the boy had come in. Teacher and student looked one another straight in the eyes for a brief moment as she passed directly over Kashyu's head. A few Nimari threw whatever weapons were handy at the woman. But she evaded them easily. For a moment Kashyu considered chasing her, but felt compelled to see to her foster father first. Take me to him, she commanded of the boy. We were so close, Naruto whined after everyone had regrouped following the fight in the forest village. They found a quiet area to set up a tiny base camp. Not as close as you think, Shino replied. Naruto, hmphed, to himself. He wasn't interested in the opinion of someone who'd demand they run away. He's right, Naruto. Kiba said, we had her for a moment, but those other guys never would have let us take her away without a fight. Naruto still grumbled to himself. And, as we found out, that one hit didn't knock her out enough. She'd have been able to resist us as we took her. It was a lost cause. Don't say that, Naruto yelled, who took the words to mean he was giving up on Hinata entirely. We still have time, Naruto. Kiba told him. How do you know? Remember when we were fighting? Hinata said that, in a day's time I will be the goddess made flesh. You're sure of this? Asked Hyuga Tomoko. Her exact words. Kiba replied. Good. Kurenai said, that means that now we know that, when, she looked to the eldest Hyuga among the group, How about the where? Hyuga Ryzen took up the discussion. Aberrane Shino-kun and I infiltrated the village as ordered, he began. Shino-kun had a hunch as to this ceremony's location. The area you were all held in during your captivity. That huge tree stump. Kiba asked. These are people of the forest. Shino said, they live within in the trees. We were held on what was essentially a giant tree stump. A tree stump see unusually high over the ground. As though it were done intentionally. Kurenai posed. Exactly. These people seem to live in harmony with their surroundings. Yet it seems they destroyed a tree, or at the very least made a point of altering the remains of a fallen one. So you believe that to be the location? Kurenai asked. We know it. Ryzen said, we explored other areas of the village. But no other area had anything close to the amount of ley lines that the stump did. I would not be surprised to learn that nearly every trail of ley lines in this valley we're in doesn't at some point cross that stump. It must be our focal point. How about you three? Kurenai asked of the other Hyuga. We found small gatherings of lines on the outskirts of the village. Hyuga Yuishi replied, though it is difficult to determine at this time if they will be used in the ceremony. Nothing special was done with or around them, said the young Hyuga Genin, Kodomaru, they were just there. That isn't good, Kurenai said, that means that we can't count on being able to disrupt the chakra channeling portion of the ceremony. There's too much margin for error. If we guess incorrectly on the points, then there's no guarantee we could find another in time. So, what now? Shino asked. We rest. Kurenai ordered, looking to Kiba and Naruto, who had been rubbing their chins raw since they left the village. A few of us have some fighting to recover from. And we won't do any good whatsoever if we're exhausted or still nursing. A little rest would have taken care of. Tomorrow, all 8 of us will infiltrate the Nimari village again. We'll do so as early as possible. Early morning will give us enough cover to avoid detection. This is also necessary because we do not know the exact time of day their summoning will take place, and we cannot afford to miss the right time. Nobody had any arguments. We'll assign watchers for the night while the others sleep, she continued. She listed who would watch and when. Naruto noticed he, Kiba, Kurenai, and the adult Hyuga were last to watch, to give them time to recover from their battles. We'll set out at 2 hours before dawn. Kurenai concluded. Everyone set about the given tasks. Those who needed rest rested. Those meant to keep watch watched. Naruto and Kiba lay side by side on the ground near the campfire. Neither could rest much. Naruto, Kiba said as he lay on his back, Akamaru sleeping on his chest, you realize that tomorrow will be our last chance. Yeah. If we don't get her back tomorrow, then Hinata, Hinata, he couldn't bring himself to say it. Despite what everyone says, Kiba continued, I think our best shot is to try and get through to her. Otherwise, we'll have to take her down and keep her down long enough to escape. After today, I don't think we can count on that. Any ideas on how we get her to listen to us? Naruto asked. Kiba was silent. Nope, Kiba said sadly, the frustration clear in his voice. Me either, Naruto admitted, but I'll figure out something. I don't care what I have to do. Good, we actually agree, then. Kiba asked. Naruto mumbled a affirmative. Both eventually fell asleep, each of their minds preoccupied with finding a way to make Hinata see how she was being used. The girl known to all but her people as Hyuga Hinata sat in her room in the home she shared with her foster father. His eyes were not serious. Kashyuinga had gotten him to healers immediately upon finding him, collapsed in an area where small children often played. The healers had repaired the worst of his eye. The rest he was currently sleeping off. There was a light knock on her door. Kashyu answered it to see the old Kish standing before her. She immediately dropped to one knee and averted her eyes. Rise, child, he instructed. She did so, resuming her seat on a small cushion that served as a chair. How is your father's health? He asked. He is doing well. With rest, his W will heal. The healers said he should be fit for tomorrow. That is good news, the elderly man said. The shinobi will almost certainly attempt to reclaim you again before the time of the ceremony. I should have pursued them, Kashyu muttered to herself, ashamed of herself for her failures up to this point. But Da Iriga would have been lost, the Kish replied, would you have wished that? No, she said adamantly. She cared deeply for the man who had cared for her since those first few confusing days as Kashyuinga. From the moment the purification had taken place, he had instructed her in the ways of the Nimiri. Their customs, their techniques, their beliefs. You chose your family and your people over your pride. Feel no shame for that act, child. Thank you, Kij, she said, blush rising in her cheeks. Now, you must rest. You yourself have a battle to recover from. The Kij held out his hand and helped the girl to her feet. At his insistence, she lay down on her futon and, exhausted as she was, fell quickly into a deep sleep. The old man lingered a moment before leaving. His eyes fixed on the sleeping adolescent before him. In all his years, he had never seriously expected to be able to bring forth the Mori no Megami into this world. Its summoning to this plane was a dream upon a dream for the Nimiri. But then, the earthquake had brought them a new path into the outside world. That path had led them to the Fire Shadow's shinobi, and among them was the girl. The moment her presence among the enemy was reported, he ordered her capture. To actually have one of the blessed line among them was a sign. The goddess was ready to be reborn, she wanted to come to this world, and brought her faithful servants this child to perform that task which. The girl was the ideal person for the task. First and foremost, she was female. The goddess could take any able vessel, but all the tales passed down among the Nimiri said she wished for a girl or woman to take possession of. Secondly, Kashyuingar was strong. She could easily best the strongest Nimiri of her age and provide challenge to even Iriga himself. Finally, she was especially susceptible to the rites of purification. The process which buried a person's memory so that they could become Nimiri. Those who felt it easiest were often dissatisfied with their lives before for one reason or another. While performing the ceremony on the girl, the Kij saw into her past. He saw a powerful warrior with no faith or pride in her own talents. A daughter who desired the love of a father who appeared distant. A child who craved the acknowledgement of those around her. Through her purification, he knew what to provide Kashyuingar to ensure she would perform as her people needed. It was why he chose Iriga to be her guardian upon her awakening. He was best at encouraging those purified in the past into accepting their place among the people of the forest. With Kashyu, he praised her with every success. When she failed, rather than berate her, he would instruct her on any mistakes and encourage her to continue her efforts. This support quickly won the girl's affection. Iriga was known to become fond of those he raised. A father-daughter bond formed quickly between them. These gave Kashyu the confidence necessary to win the respect of the other warriors among their tribe. So long as they provided for her most powerful desires, Kashyuingar would do anything for her people. The Kij watched the sleeping girl a moment longer before leaving the home and returning to his own. He had preparations to make. Tomorrow would be the day. He had much to plan for, including the inevitable interference of the shinobi. Tomorrow is too important. He could not fail. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.